Alright, welcome back to Terrible at Fishing. Today we're going to be continuing my adventures of Terrible at Technology. So stay tuned, guys. Alright, welcome back. So, we're going to talk about computers and what it takes to build a computer. I did a lot of research for this computer and I'm very happy with the way it turned out. I mean, this thing it's just pretty. It's just pretty. And it works really well. Now, my budget for this computer was as low as possible, but it was about $750 is what it all comes down to. And that's pretty good. But there are some shortcuts that I did take. That's the GPU, which is my graphics card. So I used that from my old computer. So usually that'll cost you a few $100. So basically, this is a $1,000 computer, give or take. If I was to replace that graphics card, it would cost me about $250. So that's about a $1,000 computer. So when you're making a computer or thinking about it, create a budget. Now, there's sort of a process that you go through. I went through, boy, did I go through a process. I looked at, a whole bunch of videos online. Learned so much because it's been over 20 years since I created a computer. I mean, back in my day, my first computer was a Commodore 64. Okay, I used it for homework because I took computer programming back in the early 80s in college. I was pretty much a geek back then. I mean, I had an advanced statistics class with matrix math. And if you don't know what matrix math is, nothing but numbers and columns of numbers. I mean, columns and rows of numbers. And then, and it's usually, 6 by 6 rows and columns, 10 by 10, etc. But it's a redundancy of math that you literally can make more mistakes in because there's so many steps. But it's the same step over and over and over. So this is how much of a geek I was. I actually wrote a program to do my math homework. Now, nowadays you could probably buy a computer, an algebraic computer or calculator and do it all on that. But back then, we didn't have those toys. Remember, computers didn't exist. Personal computers just didn't exist. And let alone a calculator that could do all those really cool things. I mean, my statistics class, and I took 3 semesters of statistics. I was a mathaholic. We did everything longhand. We just did it all. In fact, our final in my advanced statistics class was one question. One question. And none of us finished the formulations. And, so we were graded upon the process, not on the outcome. To be honest, it was harder back then than you guys have today. These generations now, you got a calculator, computers, and bam, and there it is. Spreadsheets for, you have Excel and stuff like that for accounting. I took 3 semesters of accounting because it didn't transfer to my other college. So I had to retake it. And that's redundant math. But back then we had physical papers of, I'm off on a tangent. Anyway, where were we? Building a computer. It's been a long time since I built a computer. I mean, the last one I built was a 486 DX. And for those of you who know computers, that's over two decades. So, I had to learn a lot. First, when you build a computer, you got to think about what are you using it for? Are you using it just for, my wife's got one for, school and household stuff, So it's a very different build. It doesn't require a lot. There's no graphics orientation with, she does like playing a game on it. But not, crazy. She's not a gamer. So that's a different computer. And then my kids, they like gaming. So they're very graphics oriented. So that requires a different computer. And then me, I'm a creator, and that requires a different computer. So think about what you're going to need the computer for. Or is it a little bit of everything? And one computer can do a little bit of everything, just cannot be perfect at one thing. So, me, I'm a creator. So what did I need? I needed something that can multitask and things that can do videos like this, and create, do film editing and picture editing. And you saw on this, let me mute this, but you saw this right here. That fish coming at us, that's an animation. And I showed you guys how I did that the other day. So, but that bass is a 3D model, and that requires a lot of work for a CPU. And that requires what's called cores. And so more cores, better it is at it. When you create, you really don't use a graphics card that much, but you max out your CPU, your central processing unit, which is kind of the brain of your system. People call it the brain. So I did a lot of research, and I needed cores, is what I needed. So I went with this one. It's a Ryzen 7, and I went with, there's lots of Ryzen CPUs, lots of different model numbers. So I went with the 5700X for two reasons. One, actually three reasons. One, I can all Ryzens are overclocked, make them more powerful, which I have done. I can use faster storage drive, which we'll get into later. And so it can use what's called a Gen 4 solid state drive, where some of these cannot. Now there's Gen 5 coming out, so don't ever try. Just do it right, and don't look back. Don't look forward too much. You'll just frustrate yourself. And so it was a Gen 5. Oh, and it has 8 cores. I needed 8 cores instead of 6 in order to do what I wanted to do. And it's a fast, it's 4.6 gigahertz is what I can max it out at. I've overclocked mine at 4.2, sort of split the difference. It has a base of 3.4 gigahertz, which is the speed it can actually do. So I sort of split the difference. I'm going to try it out at 4.2. If I need to go a little faster, go 4.3, etc. So we'll sort of play with it a little bit in time. So the CPU, once you pick your CPU, you then start the ball rolling. And look at that. I should have transitioned. I don't know why I did that. Oh, because the computer is there. Okay, I see it. So next, you've now got your brain. Now you got to put the heart. So the brain is going to marry into this. It's called a motherboard. Now, motherboards are quite interesting. And so let me move that out just a little bit. Okay. Motherboards, you can overspend on motherboards dramatically. Now, I'm hardwired down here, so I don't need Wi-Fi on this motherboard. I just plug my Ethernet into it, and boom, I'm online. But we'll talk about Wi-Fi too in a little bit. But this motherboard, we want to have heat sinks on the power, and we want to be able to have the fastest storage drives, and that's something called an M.2. It looks like a wafer, and but it's very, very, very fast, and we'll talk about that too. Storage is something that is important, because you're reading right off of this, and You want to be able to go as fast as possible. Also, it's got 4 memory chips that you can put in there. We're only using 2. But if I ever want to increase it, I could go ahead and just add 2 more. So now, let's talk a little bit about storage. And there we go. So, the old days of the mechanical drives are pretty much gone. I could put mechanical drives in here, but they're very, very slow. So those mechanical drives are about, at fastest, with a high spin rate, it's about 100 megabytes a second. That sounds fast. 100 megabytes, that's about as fast as you can get. We usually use them only for mass storage. They're cheap, but we only use them for mass storage. So I could put one in here and just put all my files on it just for storing it. But you want to go with a solid state. There are essentially 2 solid state drives that you can put in these things. There's an SSD, is short for solid state drive. So you can put a SATA, which you can see on your far left. A SATA is 12 times faster than a mechanical drive. Or you could go with an M.2 in a PCI format. And the PCI format you can get in Gen 3 or Gen 4, and these are much, much faster. So imagine the SATA drive, which is a 2.5-inch little drive, looks like a credit card, and you can put that in there. It's 12 times faster than a mechanical drive. Or you could spend the same amount of money on an M.2 and get it twice as fast in a Gen 3. A Generation 3, which I also took from my old computer and put it in here too. And then you can also buy a Gen 4. A Gen 4 is twice as fast, okay, than the Gen 3. So now it's so much faster. Remember, the mechanical drive's 100 megabytes per second. A Gen 4 is 6,600 megabytes per second. So 66 times faster. 66 times faster. That's what you're looking at on reading and writing. I mean, it's instant. You don't have to defrag it. You don't have to do stuff like that. I mean, it is just, really, it's a fantastic way of storing. And it only costs, maybe $10 or $20 more than a SATA drive. So personally, it just doesn't make sense for me to have saved $20 or so on a SATA drive, which is 12 times faster than a mechanical drive, but I can get 66 times faster for $20 more. Look at that. And it all goes on the motherboard. It all goes on the motherboard, and it's really just part of the chipset right on the motherboard. Really easy. There's no fumbling cables and stuff like that. I mean, you just put it on the motherboard and put it in the case. So, to be honest, storage, and how much storage do you need? At least a terabyte. I put 2 terabytes and 1 terabyte, so there's 3 terabytes. And believe me, that's not that much for me. Now, if you're just using it for home office stuff, 1 terabyte's plenty. But if you're a gamer or if you're a creator, you're going to need more. So I will be putting some 2.5-inch drives in this eventually, and maybe even a mechanical drive just for archiving files. But we'll see. We'll see. It's something you can always do later, but always see, a 1 terabyte M.2 runs about $50. So if you're on a budget, there you go. $100 for 2 terabytes. You only have one. Usually, you only have one M.2 5 gen or 4 gen on this. So make it big. Go big. So that's your storage. My suggestion: go with M.2s, then the SATA SSDs, and if you put a mechanical, which is huge and cheap, just put that as a backup drive. So now let's talk about memory. Now you could go with fast memory, and these are measured in megahertz. You'll never see the difference, to be honest. If I put a 4,000 in here, megahertz, as opposed to this 3,200, 1% difference, maybe 2% difference. You think you're going to see the difference on 1 or 2%? No, you're not. So why spend so much more money on memory? This is a very affordable memory, all right? Really good. I went with a clock speed of 16 on it, which that's a different thing. Do some research on it. It probably doesn't matter too much, but technically it's a little faster. 3,200 megahertz, very affordable. These only cost $80 for 32 gigabytes of memory. I wouldn't go 16 anymore because for $10 more or $20 more, you can get double that. Always just, plan ahead a little bit on that. Put 32 gigabytes in your computer. Unless it's just an office computer, for housework, and you can put 16. You always want to buy them in a set of 2. And you have to buy them together. They have to be made together. So you buy them in a 2-pack and, put them in there and have fun. So next is the power supply. Now, mine's got pretty lights. Everything's got pretty lights. But I will tell you, you don't need it because it's facing down. The reason I got this is that it's a 850 watt gold rated power supply that only costs $80 or $75 or something like that. Wasn't very much. But what makes these things really different, besides its ratings, and gold is real common, you see the wire sticking out of it? This is what we call a semi-modular power supply. That means there's some wires that are attached to it and some are not. Basic wiring is going to be attached to it. So no big deal. So save you a lot of money. This is half the price of a fully modular power supply. So is that really worth it? Because you never see it. It's down here in the basement of my computer. You'll never see it. So why spend twice as much more on a power supply? Because you can attach and detach cables to it, which you'll never see. Stupid. Now, I did buy extensions on these that are white. So these cables that you're seeing in the case, these are white cables. Let me see. So you can see the white cables on it. So you could buy for $30, $25 extensions. Still, that's a lot cheaper than $150 for a power supply, and then you can get one for $70. So you're still saving a lot of money. If color matching is real important to you, you can just buy extensions of any color you want. So no big deal. Just buy a power supply that, I'd say 850 watts minimum, and make sure it's gold rated, and you're good to go. If it's got pretty lights, fine. Mine's sort of, a drift, little sports car thing, lights underneath it. So, all right. So, next we're going to talk about Wi-Fi. All right. Do you have to, if you've not upgraded your Wi-Fi in your home yet to Wi-Fi 6E, I would suggest it. It makes my daughter upstairs, I'm hardwired, and she's not. She's on 6E. It's about a 10% difference between my hardwired and hers, her Wi-Fi. That's amazing. She's getting so much data transfer. Or let me do a speed test. Hers is so close to what. Run a speed test on mine. Okay, so we're actually broadcasting or I'm recording right now. So that'll probably take a little bit. So hardwiring is about 250 megabits per second on a download and 11 megabits per second upload. Now, about 10% less That's what my daughter's getting. That is fantastic, which is 5 times faster than what she was getting before. It was just a big difference. And it's a larger area to its services, and everybody gets better internet connections. And I have a big house, 3 stories, and it's really big. Be nice to go in the backyard and still have internet. This is what this does. So look at something that costs like $70 for a new router, and it's just it's a plug and play. So let me just tell you that the most fun thing to shop for when you're building a computer, though, is the case. You see my pretty case? There it is. Shopping for a case is probably the most fun out of everything. You will absolutely enjoy it. You're going to want this or that, but let me just tell you, if your budget is $100 or less, you're going to be good. This case costs $100. Now, I bought a white one, so it's $110, and it costs a little more for white. I just wanted a nice clean build. I didn't want it black. I want it to pop a little bit. So that was a total choice. But I will tell you, when you pick a case, you're going to go for looks. You just will. I did. But you also want build construction and airflow. So you want one with, a little thicker metal on it. And this one's really stiff. I could take the panels off on this, and it's still very rigid. A lot of these are really teeny. I mean, they're tiny, skinny. Really low gauge on the, they're just terrible. And you want airflow. So mine, pulls air from the bottom and from the side, and then pushes it out the back or the top, whatever. But it comes with 4 fans. Now, when you look for a case, you want something ready to go, because let's say you find a nice $60 case. It's beautiful. It's got good airflow. It comes with no fans. No fans. So now you've got to buy at least 3 fans, maybe 4. But you need at least 3 fans, 2 intake or 3 intake, and 1 exhaust. That's important. So now you're going to spend another $30 on fans. So now your $60 is $90. But you can get, this is a company called Montech, Montech. And they come ready to go. And they've got $80 cases with fans already installed. $70 cases. I just went prettier. Because this is sexy. This is what you're going to look at all the time. So that's one of those things that you're going to do. I mean, it's like going out and buying a car. It's kind of like buying a car. I mean, my favorite car in the whole wide history of the world is a 69 Dodge Charger RT 4-speed. I just think it's the best looking car ever made. I've owned 2 of them. I absolutely love them. There's something that just gets my heart going pitter-pat. It's kind of what a computer. I mean, most people see this computer and they think, wow, that's good looking. That's kind of the way it is with 69 Dodge Charger. So, and, here's a 69 Dodge Charger. 500, little Hot Wheel collectible. And I've got a lot more. It's a bunch more. Come on. All right, come on. Focus on me. Sometimes this thing just gets out of focus. It'll focus. Woo. All right. So, your PSU case is really, really fun to shop for. And believe me, you're going to change your mind 5, 6, 7 times. So, you're just going to change your mind a lot. But in the end, building it is easier than you think. I mean, if you look at the live video that I did last week when we built this, it took 2.5 hours. I did a lot of research, and I knew that motherboard like the back of my hand. I mean, I could tell you every little switch on it because I overstudied. And that's kind of what I do. I just overstudy. And you're going to do that too. And it's just going to drive you nuts a little bit. And you're going to change your mind a lot. But in the end, this is what you're going to get. Now, I will tell you a really easy way to save money on graphics. Now, I was thinking about buying what a CPU that's called an APU, all-in-one processing unit, which means that the CPU can do graphics. I could have got an AM7 with the graphics in it. What that would have done for me, though, my Gen 4, I wouldn't have had a Gen 4 M.2, so I would have sacrificed some speed on my solid state drive, but I wouldn't have had to put a graphics card in here. So you can build this whole computer for $700, the same one right here, and it'll work. All you got to do is just buy a 5700G. G means graphics, and it would work really good. Now, I bought a 5700X, which is 2 more cores, and I can use a faster M.2. But you don't have to. I mean, if you're a gamer, you don't need the cores. If you're building a gaming PC and you can't afford a graphics card, you really don't have to. Did I go over my CPU cooler? Probably not. I will go over that right now. The 5700G comes with a CPU cooler. This one does not. So you're going to save by not buying a graphics card. Now, mind you, if you get a graphics card, it'll run better. But you'll find that the reviews on the 5700G is really, really, really good. And for most people, that's all they need. And it comes with a stock cooler. Now, this is my cooler. It's an Assassin, Thermarite Assassin. The Assassin is a twin tower. Yes, it has pretty lights, but that's not really why I bought it. I bought it because it was, one, it was white. Two, it is the best bang for buck cooler out on the market. It consistently is outperforms almost everything out on the market. I mean, there are a few that are better, and you could go with a water-cooled system, which I did not want to do, but because this processor doesn't run hot. I mean, this processor right now, we're doing this video, we're recording it. Let's see how hot it's running. You'll be shocked, because I was. 28 degrees Celsius. Now, its max is 95, so it's running cold right now. You don't have to. I mean, if you don't have a processor that runs hot, you don't need a big, giant, massive cooler. I did this because I'm overclocking it, making my CPU run faster than the base clock. And that requires more power, which creates more heat. So that's why I did this. Everything had a rhyme or reason, but imagine you don't have to spend a GPU, and you go with Gen 3 M.2, and you don't have. I mean, it's just you don't need the cooler anymore. You really can get out for under $600 for a gaming PC that'll do most games satisfactory. So, to be honest, it actually is a fairly easy thing to do. If you guys have any questions that you think I could help you with, and I'll send you links to some really good videos that I learned a lot from. And in fact, I'll put a few down here. And just email me. If I could be of any help, just holler. And there's my email's down below. And you just go ahead and email me. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for stopping by. And this will be in my terrible at technology thread. I am an old nerd, 30 years in the electronics industry. I even owned a company that uh, inserted new technologies, usually semiconductor technology, into new markets overseas. So this company, Montech, is based in Taipei, and I've been to Taipei because I used to work in Taiyuan, which is where Taipei International is, airport. You fly into Taiyuan, and then I always worked in Taiyuan and Taipei. So it was a really kind of actually, I contacted them and they got back to me within 24 hours. So customer service is real important. So I want to thank you guys for stopping by, listening to me for however long this was, and we will see you guys later.